Having worked with over 2,000 small businesses, there is one habit that separates the productive teams from the not productive teams. That habit is using messaging tools, and not in the way that you think. Heavy use of any of the common chat tools out there, like Google Chat, Slack, DMs, iMessage, WhatsApp, they might feel like they're helping your business get more done because it does allow you to communicate. But this solution is actually adding 3 major challenges that are going to bite you in the ass later. The first challenge is the fact that this chat that you've created is going to be always running. And so what happens is when something important goes into that chat, it quickly gets buried by other messages. What that means is that if you actually want to keep track of important things, you have to keep posting more messages. We're essentially creating micro social media feeds in our business where we're getting rewarded for constantly checking the feeds and reposting and spamming our fellow teammates. And this makes sense. After all, these chat platforms are meant to feel like a conversation that's always going. But that's not how actual work needs to be done. If there's a commitment to a client, like, hey, we need to get the PowerPoint to them by Friday. PowerPoint, how archaic am I? But we need to get the PowerPoint to them for some reason by Friday. If I put that in a chat and then messages continue to fill up, it's going to be really easy for me to ignore that message or simply miss that message in the flurry of other communications. There's no accountability with messaging. It's all based on time. And as soon as the time passes, so does the message. This is the same problem that a lot of people face when they try to time block on their calendar. They put promises on their calendar, then the new week happens and boop, calendar is empty. Guess there was no promises. We move right on. Both of these systems struggle because they have a very short-term memory. And when it comes to promises, we need to be more like elephants and remember for the long haul. If we want to have our team be more productive and do what they say they're going to do and keep track of their commitments and deadlines, it makes a lot of sense for us to take those out of chat rooms and instead put them inside a work management tool like the ones I talk about in this video up here. Now, you might be thinking at this point, Layla, you're being ridiculous, right? We've got a chat room for each client. We've got a Slack channel for each department. We're going to make sure everything stays nice and broken apart so we don't ever lose it. Which introduces our second challenge, which is the challenge of retracing steps. The challenge of chronological is that now all of our information is logged based on when we talked about it, not what we talked about. So if I'm sitting down to, for example, write that PowerPoint that I need to get to the client by Friday, I remember that we talked about the PowerPoint, but did we talk about it in the client chat or in the PowerPoint chat or in the marketing chat or wait, where was it again? And I have to hunt around if I want to try to figure out what did we actually talk about when it comes to that PowerPoint, assuming I even remember that we talked about that PowerPoint. So while the first issue was things being blatantly ignored, the second issue is the fact that all of your information, even if it's remembered, is incredibly disconnected. Again, organized by time rather than by outcome. And if your small business is trying to produce more things, doesn't it make more sense to talk where the things are rather than based on the date of the week it is? Yeah. So going back to that recommendation of using a work management software, if you do create a task for creating the PowerPoint, you could then have your discussions about that PowerPoint on the task about that PowerPoint. This gives you one space to keep track of work and keep track of additional context all inside one window. When I'm sitting down to actually work on the PowerPoint, I see all that context right next to the task that I have to knock out. I'm organizing information by the outcome we want as a business, which is getting this PowerPoint done, instead of by the fact that we were messaging on Tuesday. This practice of talking where work actually happens is a huge shift. And when my team went from using Slack to practicing this talk in tasks approach, it was a huge change. Yes, it took us a few seconds longer to figure out, wait, where should I send this message? But we were instantly sending it in the most relevant spot. Keep in mind, this kind of stuff about communication is just one possible cause for why your team operations might not be as efficient as it could be. To figure out exactly what's going wrong with your team, we have a free quiz in the description below. It's a operations assessment that asks you a bunch of questions. It's been taken by over 6,000 small businesses, and it's a really great benchmark to help you figure out what is actually holding your team back, whether that's Slack or something else. If you've ever watched those YouTube videos about people who give you tips about cleaning your home, I don't know, maybe I'm just really messy. I watch those and I'm like, oh God, if only. And one of the pieces of advice they always give is that when you come home, put things right where they belong rather than just letting them pile up. Okay, I don't do that so well in practice, but in business I do, because that's exactly what this kind of practice is all about. When you have a message coming up, rather than just grabbing the general group chat and hoping someone sees it, find the thing you're talking about. Find the task for the meeting, find the task for the PowerPoint, find the task for the order, and leave the comment directly on that spot so that person sees it now, but they also see it again when they're actually surfacing that work. In my experience, it's a whole lot easier than actually keeping a tidy home. Now, speaking of home, our third reason why these chat apps are probably killing your profitability by wasting people's time and adding more expense is toxic availability. The fact is, a lot of these chat apps really pride themselves on helping you be instantly connected with your team members. And you may not agree with me here, but I don't think for most small businesses, instant availability is a good thing. It's not. Unless you're doing, open heart surgery, you're in a hospital, you're in a crisis scenario. Outside of extenuating circumstances, I don't think team members should be always on and always available, especially when you have folks in different time zones, people who are on vacation, and so on. Here at ProcessDriven, we have flexible working hours. Because these message apps are built on chronological order, if you don't respond quickly, the message gets missed. And so people get annoyed and they message again, which rewards people to respond quickly. And I remember I had a client not too long ago who was using Microsoft Teams. They had a lot of teams set up. They were using it very actively. And the leader of this business actually noticed that people were responding to Teams messages in seconds, in minutes. And he was like, shouldn't they be doing something else? To which I responded, yes. But when we train people that the way to be a supportive part of the team and be perceived as successful in the organization and active contributors is responding quickly to chats that if you don't respond to them, they get filled with something else, that's not going to incentivize actually getting work done. Whereas if we use a work management system, we keep track of deliverables and communicate on deliverables, that time crunch really lifts. And all of a sudden it's just, let's talk about the work when we're working on that thing. By the way, if your team would need support implementing any of the ideas I'm sharing here, be sure to book a call at the link in the description below. Here at ProcessDriven, I've committed to keeping all of our core team members here in the US of A, but we work different time zones. I take 2-hour lunches. Mariah works really early in the morning. Other team members prefer to work late at night or are part-time. And because of that, if we had this culture of always on chat, part-time team members would miss full chunks of the conversation. People who are working different hours would feel like they need to be on and checking on their phones to make sure they don't miss something important. Yes, our businesses are always on, but our humans should not be always on. Save that for your AI agents. Which brings me to the fourth reason to kick Slack to the curb, which is if you are at all interested in this big, crazy world that is AI. Artificial intelligence and agents that you can add into your business are really good at finding information and knocking out tasks. They're only going to become more powerful and probably more expensive in the months and years to come. But here's the thing. To do their job really well, they need context. They need to know what is happening. And they don't need to know it in chronological order. Nope. Your AI agent actually wants to know only relevant context to the thing it's doing. Having it keep up on everything in the life story of your business is a huge waste of time and tokens and money, just like it's a waste of the time on the people on your team. So if you're going to start including more AI helpers into your business, it makes sense to start putting information in a format that these helpers can easily find what they need. We don't want them having to search through our entire Slack inventory to figure out how to figure out this task about our PowerPoint. Just compare the amount of resources it takes to read through every possible Slack message we ever had to figure out what's going on with this client versus opening a task where all notes around this client are right there in one specific task about prepare for client meeting for client A. If you're an AI enthusiast, the cost of the tokens alone should persuade you towards keeping information in context. And yes, of course, you could have AI helpers help put information in context, but because of the human cost we just talked about with the 3 other points, I would argue it's probably time to just change our behaviors to not only be more AI friendly, but to be more human friendly. Speaking of keeping information in context, though, tasks and to-dos are only a small piece of the puzzle. There's also the big picture of running your business and making sure all of that is somewhere that you know what's happening, your team knows what's happening, and your AI helpers do too. How do we do that? Well, we watch this video next. Thanks so much for watching. See you in the next one and enjoy the process.